Hey, good morning, people. How we doing today? It is Friday, September 22nd. Hope everyone is doing well. And what a week we've had. We've dumped even more yesterday, right? Generally speaking, the downside has been opening up viciously in the overall markets. And right now, right, a quicker update, it's looking a little oversold. Now, I'm not saying we print lows here and we just keep chugging along. We broke August lows already. We are looking extremely oversold. I think that there is that scenario of a dead cat bounce in the markets because we've seen them sell into the lows. Excuse me. Wow. We've seen them sell into the lows. A lot of traders got trapped into that area on the overnight session. We got higher lows. We're now escaping some of the value areas in the S&P, and a lot of this momentum to the downside is starting to fade. Right. So in today's session, right, if we do sell off a little, it's going to be earlier on, and then towards the end of the session, I'm going to be looking for some upside into about Tuesday, Wednesday, something like that, to get a little leg higher for the next continued move to the downside. There's still a lot of bearish momentum in this market. I think that we're in a seasonal perspective that the downside does open up a little more before we find that bottom. However, it's Friday. We want to end the week off on a good note, right? Generally, Fridays, they have some bullish sentiment around them. Right now, on the overnight session, we're getting a bit of a bull move as well. So, what I'm looking at in this scenario on the S&P 500 is to capture a higher low around 43.80, 43.84, right in that region on the futures. Should that area hold, right, we can look for that extension into the 95 and a bit higher even. Anything back above 43.95, I think we have a stronger extension higher to capture some of those areas like 44.05. So the final support for the S&P 100 on the bull side is going to be 43.70 to 72 in my opinion. On the day session today, I would expect that area to hold fairly well. We're now above some of those key areas that got sold off super aggressively with a lot of market sellers in yesterday's session. So the fact that we're overcoming that on the upside suggests that there is some momentum higher. So I'll be looking for some upside. There could be a little pullback and then rally into the end of the session. I am looking to see if we can rally into the weekend and Monday looking a little stronger, right? If there's no bullish momentum today, right, I'd be a little more surprised. I think the probability sits on the bull side, as well as on Monday. Realistically, that's something that I'm going to be looking for on the S&P 500 futures. So in other news, right, there is some news that we got to speak about, right? Shutdown looming, right? House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, third attempt to avert a federal government shutdown has collapsed with only 9 days left before the federal government's new fiscal year. So this is a whole new concept of individuals who just want to burn the whole place down, he said, after a group of Freedom Caucus Republicans voted with Democrats to block a vote on a traditionally popular defense funding bill. While Congress needs to pass 12 appropriate bills to fund the federal government. Fear and greed trader advise investors not to overreact on the looming shutdown. Markets are largely unaffected in the leap to the shutdown and on average continue to rise on a 30-day following a resolution, right? So we'll see how that shapes up. I haven't seen too much market fear spark on that, right? The majority of the market fear right now over the past few days has been the expectancy of monetary policy in the future. So that's something to consider. But we'll see how this progresses because, of course, it can affect the market and it will affect the market should things kind of turn. We also have the United Auto Workers will announce today which factories will be affected by the broadening of targeted strikes against Ford, GM, General Motors, and Stellantis. So Union President Sean Fain previously warned that the strike would expand unless substantial progress was made, and politicians from both parties have entered the tray with most calling for a compromise in the middle where the pay increase would be 25 to 30% over a 4-year contract. So there's the belief if UAW were to prevail, it would be a fairly large victory as it could lead American automakers becoming less competitive due to mounting costs naturally, right? These expected increases on the salary front are fairly high in that regard. There's also some news that floats around Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft. You know, this has been going on for freaking ever, it seems, right? A massive tech acquisition, the biggest realistically in US history, is on its way to the finish line after many, many hurdles from regulators literally across the globe. Microsoft purchase Activision Blizzard for $69 billion and will transform the gaming player into a gaming behemoth, with the company behind Xbox becoming the new owner of popular gaming franchise like Call of Duty and World of Warcraft. So Microsoft has gone to great lengths to address concerns about the new market position, committing to helping bring more games to more people and creating more opportunities for games and or gamers and game developers. So getting the deal approved wasn't an easy task, right? The regulatory road was a super tough, long, and bumpy one. After the transaction was put forward in January 2022, so it's been over a year at this point. Microsoft eventually scored approval in the EU, China, and other markets, but faced prolonged fight with the Federal Trade Commission in the US and the Competition and Markets Authority in the UK following several court losses. The FTC suit was eventually dropped while Microsoft rifled for the merger across the pond with remedies that included the um, divestiture of cloud rights related to the PC and console gaming. Not that I'm a big gamer, but I know this has been going on for freaking ever. It looks like there might be finally enough, right? The UK said overnight that it sees reasonable grounds for the merger, and restructured proposal opens the door to the deal being fully cleared. After gathering third-party feedback, shares of Activision Blizzard rose only 2% to $94 a share in the pre-market, approaching that $95 price. And Microsoft had laid out a unrevealed that when it unrevealed the industry rattling transaction nearly 2 years ago. So again, Microsoft, I do like Microsoft on the longer term. I think this is going to be a great acquisition for them, right? There's going to be a lot of potential and exploration for that in that industry. And speaking of longer term and the next potential leg in tech, right? Tech, a lot of individual tech names haven't necessarily dropped that aggressively. I think that in the coming weeks, we're going to get something that presents itself as a long opportunity in markets all across the board. So in October, generally speaking, I like how that shapes up. So I'll be looking for something a little lower, right? We still have maybe a 2 to 5% drop to the downside in overall markets. Tech market could slump a little harder before we see that. I think a very good opportunity for the next few quarters leading into 2024. Morgan Stanley also still firmly standing behind the concept and the idea and their prognosis of an early 2024 rate cut, actually. So I don't know how popular that the belief is, but realistically, there's still recessionary pressure that comes into 2024. So I think this is the next good pickup for markets into the end of the year. Generally speaking, from a look back point of view, when markets drop this significantly in August and September, there's a following rally into the end of the year that either clears or comes clear of all-time highs. So that's a concept that we do have to remember amidst all this fear and greed back and forth. Fear index from CNN recently jumped into that, I think, like 40 gauge of fear, which generally speaking, once we get into those extreme fears, that's when people start loading on the long side. Now, I don't think that bottom has come yet. One of the other metrics that I look forward to is the put to call ratio, which hasn't really gotten very expanded yet. So I don't think that lows are in, but dead cat bounces have a high probability into early next week. Чистит праздник. What Ivan, what holiday is it? But yeah, чистит праздник. I'm not sure, but yeah, Corona. I managed to get rid of COVID in a few days. It was an arduous battle the first 2 days, but we're good now. So with that, I hope everyone has an amazing weekend. Thanks for joining me. Happy Friday. Trade light. Like I said, I'm a little more leaning to the buy side today on dips. So let's close out Friday on a strong note. I think that Traders are exhausted of seeing all this selling, right? And there's been a little bit of dip buying over the night. So let's see how that shapes up. Remember, check us out at tradeproacademy.com for that free futures course. We also have what do we have? Check out community.tradeproacademy.com for our free Discord. Oh, we got some Bulgarian fans. Haydi biku. Hope everyone has a great day, great weekend, and we'll do this again on Monday. Thank you and take care, everyone.